It's Andrew Nembhard Day here on Locked On Pacers as we look ahead at his Olympic run with Canada, how he fits in on the team, why this is so significant for him, skills he can soak in from his teammates, Canada's tough group in the Olympics, and much more, all coming on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Thursday and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers as always. My name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today, taking another break from our run of covering Summer League to talk about international play. Talked about Haliburton and USA, who have played now 3 games, I believe, by the time this comes out, of friendlies before the Olympics. Now it's time for Andrew Nembhard and his spot on this Canadian team that is probably the second best team in this tournament, maybe third. Very good team. I think they're second. And Nembhard's a key player on this squad. Looking forward to seeing how Canada plays. They play very soon in their next scrimmage ahead of the Olympics against France, too, a good team. And Esfandiar Baraheni is going to join us to break it all down today. He was at Canada's training camp, talked to Nembhard before they came down to the U.S. to play Team USA. So he soaked it all in. We talk a little Ben Mathurin, who was a part of camp for a little bit as well, a little bit about Canada's chances in this tournament, why this team is so good. Great conversation to learn about Nembhard and his team's chances in the Olympics, all coming today. Let's just get right to it. Did Haliburton Tuesday, but he is not the only Pacer with a major role on a very good Olympic team. Andrew Nembhard, Team Canada, one of the favorites in the event, a loaded team. We've got to talk about Nembhard, this Canadian squad, their job in the Olympics. And Esfandiar Baraheni is here to help me break it all down. He covers the Raptors for Forbes. He's all over Canadian basketball and has been in many places. I was just watching stuff on Raptors Republic that you've been a part of. This team's loaded, man. I think all of Canada is going to be buzzing for this Olympic squad.
Absolutely. I mean, look, this has been the culmination of like years of disappointment, right? It's been the golden era for like 15 years with Canada basketball, and now they're officially in that golden era. I mean, the team is loaded. You talk about the SGAs and Jamal Murrays of the world, but they have tons of depth too with RJ Barrett and Dylan Brooks and Dwight Powell and Lou Dort and Kelly Olynyk and all those types of guys. Adding Trey Lyles and Nembhard to the mix makes it more exciting. And I think the fact that they're missing a few guys that likely would have been on the team if it not for Summer League or whatever, and Zach Edey and Andrew. Or the Warriors and Andrew Wiggins potentially getting traded. Have a good time in Utah, Andrew. But look, I'm excited to see how this Canadian team does. I think they are a very, very talented group, probably the second most talented group in the tournament. We'll see if they can get out of that group of death.
It's brutal. We will get to that. Yeah, I've been tracking Canada basketball for the wrong reasons for a bit. Usually it was because, so this, but for those who don't, 3 summers ago, they did this thing where they said, okay, this is our team that you got to come be a part of every summer to be with us for the Olympics. Yeah. And that the first time they did that announcement, then Pacer O'Shea Brissett was on it. So I was always keeping up with who was playing and who wasn't. Like, oh, cool. O'Shea could be on the Olympic team. Maybe he's on the World Cup team. He's on neither. Yeah. In the end, it did not ever work out for him with the way free agency shook out. And the 1 year he wasn't a free agent, he just wasn't named to, I forget, whatever competition team that year. But I've been keeping up with that along the way. And then finally, the Olympics come. And instead, they have a different Pacer and an Indianapolis native in Trey Lyles. So some local intrigue for this squad. And depending on how the public feels on Khem Birch,
Could have had two Pacers. Could have had 2 Pacers on the
That's
squad.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
With Mathurin and all that.
Yeah, do you think Mathurin would have made the 12 if he wasn't hurt? We weren't going to talk about him, but we can ask about it now.
They're loaded guard-wise, so I'd be curious to see if they actually would. I think him and Sharp are guys that they're molding for their World Cup games in a couple of years. It's like, hey, you'll sort of be the B team as our A team grows together, and then eventually we'll have you guys all sort of come together in 2028. But I mean, he's talented. He's obviously more than enough talent to be able to be on the roster. It's just about like, do you need another scoring guard to be on that team,
Yeah, Alexander Walker and Shaden Sharp and Ben Mathurin could be like a group of wingy guardy guys who
Yeah.
compete for a spot in the future, but it's exactly because of what he does. It's hard to figure out who you'd kick off because
Yeah.
the air quotes worst players are bigs and you need size. Like there's been a lot of jokes this summer, rightly, about can they just smash Canada and France's teams together because France is all these tall people and no ball handlers, and Canada's all these ball handlers with less talented tall people. Like that would be an insanely good combo team.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not reality.
Just call it Quebec, just call
Yeah, like can Yugoslavia, Quebec, like we could just have a nasty Olympics full of combined teams. What do you so this is good. I totally wasn't going to talk about this, but now we're gonna. What do you think Mathurin got out of being around camp? You were there a few days.
Yeah.
I know you talked to Drew once at least. What do you think Mathurin got out of that? Because we just heard on the Summer League broadcast from Rick Carlisle that he's very close to full contact. So that means he wasn't in this camp, at least presumably, but still being around matters. There's a reason they invited him. There's a reason he went. So what do you think he got out of that experience?
I think Jamal and Shea talked about it with both him and Sharp, and it was just like learning the preparation and routine of some of these guys. Not just in the sense of like getting ready for a game, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis to get ready for the game, and workout routines and diet regimens and all that stuff. Like they apparently talked a lot about how to prepare to get to the next level. And obviously, if you want Mathurin or Sharp to eventually get to Murray/SGA status, they need to learn the ins and outs of how to prepare to get to that level. So I think that's what helped. I know he did do some workouts with them. I don't know, like you said, the full extent contact wise, but I think just being in that group, being in that environment helped him learn how he needs to be for the next however many years of his career.
Yeah, I hope he's able to do it eventually. He's clearly among the top 15, 20 Canadian players, right?
For sure.
We hope that someone like that could get on the Olympic team once. And it helps that, like you said, there's two guards at his position who are both awesome scorers. And in Shea's case specifically, like Mathurin's thing to me and why I was so high on him entering last year was he got to the foul line so much. Like Shea is amazing at that kind of stuff. Can he copy Shea's everything else?
That's
the rest of his game, the passing, all that, and being around him certainly in a national team context too helps. And I think Mathurin would be a pretty good FIBA player with that rule adjustment as well. So
it's funny you say that. It's funny you mentioned the free throw and like the fouling, because that's what Nembhard said. Like he's like, I'm learning and improving on my free throw stuff. And hey, he didn't necessarily say Shea is helping me with this, but maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because Drew's like signature shot is not right because no one thinks of Andrew Nembhard for this. But to me, like something that makes him unique is he takes this like elbow-ish, like a step in from that fadeaway jumper, and he's gotten pretty good at it. And so it's a fine shot. It's like 45+%, right? You live with that in the NBA, but if you not live with, but like if you take that a lot, you're not getting to the line. Like you're not taking that step towards the rim. And a lot of contact diverse players are totally fine in that reality, but free throws are like insanely efficient, right? So if you can do that and add that to your bag where you just find one more dribble, and he's such a talented, like in tight spaces passer, I do wonder if it would be not low hanging fruit, because if every player could add free throws to their game, they would do it. But a way for him to be much better next year would be, trading 3 of those shots a game for one more dribble toward the rim and seeing what that produces.
It's interesting that he thinks that's a pathway, because, I mean, if you're getting in the paint and you're getting paint touches like him often, then I guess the natural progression is to be able to draw fouls and like get guys off their spot and, pump fakes and whatnot. And I think that craft level is there. Like he doesn't use it often, but I do think he has the craftiness to eventually get to that point where he can draw fouls well. It's just about, I think with him it's an aggression thing, and maybe I'm just overthinking it too much with the first game that they played, but I looked at it, I'm like, man, he's not even looking at the basket sometimes. Like I need him to go out and be that secondary creator for them off of the bench. We'll see how that evolves as the tournament starts and how they look. I'm curious your thoughts, because I thought he was really aggressive in the playoffs, and like he looked to score a lot in the postseason. Not a lot, but like compared to what he was usually used to, it felt like there was an uptick in the aggression that he had. Do you expect that to kind of happen again on Team Canada, or less of that on Team Canada?
I think like his 5 shots in that USA game, right? I think it was 5. I don't have the box score in front of me.
Yeah.
Four of them were in that range I was talking about earlier, where it was like push shot floatery. It's like that. He gets that all the time, but especially if he's going to be third guard, like he's got to attack more. And what we saw in the postseason with him, that was an evolution that wasn't not new, but just like when he was lead ball handler with Haliburton out, no one could keep him out of the paint. Like the Celtics defense of like just studs everywhere, like half their team is Team USA, could not keep him out of the paint. And he was scoring like crazy and setting up whoever. So he can do it, right? It's just sometimes for whatever his role happens to be, and he plays two guard for the Pacers most of the time, so he's off the ball. Like he doesn't have all the time that like gung-ho to the rim, beat my guy kind of game.
Yeah.
But he can do it, right? So I'll be curious how much he's unleashed in that way with this Canadian squad.
Yeah, it's also curious because they ran full bench lineups against the U.S., and I doubt they do that in the actual Olympics. Like, I don't think they're going to do platoon swaps. I think it'll be a lot more staggering and incorporating different lineups. So how he looks off of the ball next to Shea or Jamal, or if they run like these 3-guard lineups with all three of them out there, then you could see him maybe take more advantage of the off-ball capabilities that he has. The catch and shoot stuff from the corners and whatnot, and also being able to attack a tilted defense. Those are the things that I'm excited for. But also just like when Shea was off the floor last summer for Canada, the offense just fell apart. And obviously, naturally, they don't have the talent outside of him to really get things going. I'm curious how Murray and Drew activate and unlock that just to keep them afloat while Shea is resting, because that's a big part that Jordi Fernandez has mentioned a bunch during training camp too.
Hey guys, short little break here so we could talk about Game Time, an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch or the start of the game, with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets and tickets to other events. I went to Dallas Wings versus New York Liberty using Game Time. It was fantastic. The view from your seat was spot on. There were no hidden fees. You can toggle that feature, but the all-in pricing for me was fantastic, so no surprises at checkout. Their Game Time guarantee means they'll credit you if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere, so you're getting the best deal. It is absolutely the best way to buy tickets to whatever event you're going to, including MLB this summer. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So do you anticipate that being, it sure looks fairly obvious just looking at the roster that he would be the third guard the whole Olympics. Like, do you anticipate that's what he is ping-ponging between playing with Shea and Jamal and kind of being that secondary attacker, off-ball kind of shooter? And, of course, his defense is the best. To me, the best of those three guys. He is the best defender taking on those assignments. Or do you anticipate that could change in any way?
Jordi Fernandez loves Drew.
Every coach that has Andrew Nembhard loves Andrew Nembhard. Yeah, every single one.
Yeah, look, we talked to him the first day of training camp, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we'll see what happens. It's very interesting. He's a nice, nifty guard. We'll be able to use him defensively." And then we talked to him at the end of training camp, and he's like, "This dude is a rock star. I would live and die with Drew." Like that was the change in mentality that he had. So I'm assuming he had a great camp. I think he will definitely be that third guard off of the bench, if not for the defensive ability that is obviously there, but just for extra creation juice. Because I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker did a great job last year in the World Cup as this shot creator, make shots, catch and shoot guy. But I do not think that he is capable of doing that full time in the Olympics off of the bench. So that's why you need Drew to kind of stir the pot and get things going. And that, like, I could also see 3-guard lineups, and I'm excited. Like, if they were to actually throw out 3-guard lineups, that'll really just, I don't know, it'll amplify all of the creation juice that they require in the Olympics.
If I'm correct, I believe in your tweet or in writings about Drew, not only was free throws a thing he was focused on, but rebounding was another one in there. How often does a 6'3" guard toss that in? Is there? He's a little taller than that, but how often does someone his size point that out as an offseason focus? That's very interesting to me because the Pacers really need that to be a thing. They're a very bad rebounding team, and that extends down to the guards to me. What is that a thing? Like, does Canada need him to hit the glass? Is that just something he specifically is focusing on? Where is that development going to shake out?
I think the league is trending towards guys crashing
Yes,
off the glass. Like, the Celtics are probably the most prevalent and recent example of like crashing from the corners, and Drew Holiday and Derek White kind of, instead of leaking out and getting back in on defense, they're crashing and grabbing the offensive rebounds. I think that's just a trend, maybe something that teams are starting to use. And Jordi Fernandez even mentioned that. So maybe that is the case with Drew. It's like, hey, you're going to have to crash sometimes when Shea is above the break or Jamal is above the break. Like, we need you to dive and go and get that second chance. And like, Canada is small, that's probably one of the issues that they have, is that they don't have a big bruising body like an Embiid or a Wemby and Rudy Gobert. They're trusting on Dwight Powell and Kelly Olynyk, and like, all love to those guys. They've been Canadian guys for a really, really long time, have contributed to that program, but they're going to need some help on the rebounding. So having Drew, having Dylan, whoever it is, crash will be really, really important.
Ironically, the bruising bigs for Canada are the two guys who aren't in the NBA right now.
Yeah, it's true. It really is. Like, yeah, you need Zach. That's the one guy that everybody is hoping for. It's like he could have solved the equation for them this summer, but it is what it is.
Hey, he can't play for Canada because he's got to sit on the bench and not play in Vegas.
Exactly.
Either.
Yeah.
Learn the ropes. I was so excited. I was like, oh, the Grizzlies are playing. This guy played at Purdue. I want to go see. And he wasn't playing in the game. I look on the bench, I'm like, there's no giant guy in a jersey. Oh, he's this tan sweatshirt, enormous person. Duh. I mean,
yeah, I mean, look, we can, there's a lot of conversation about like how important it is to be a part of the team and like get reps and watch film and all that type of stuff. And I think there's some validity to that, but like, what better experience would it have been, if he played in the Olympics, got experience guarding Embiid and Jokic and guys that the Grizzlies likely will have to face in the postseason next year. So I don't know. I don't see the logic behind them holding him back. Maybe he just wanted to get reps with the Grizzlies, but it is what it is at this point.
I always think of, when I think about these Olympic teams, I always think naturally about France, less so Spain anymore, but in the past, Spain and Australia as like big threats because they have NBA talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think France has 7 or 8 NBA players. I should know that better if I'm going to just start talking about them. Australia has 8 or 9. Like, Canada has 10, and if you count Kem Birch again, I'll let the public decide.
Let it slide.
Kem Birch is an NBA player. 11, and Edgem's played in summer league and preseason, but I'm not counting him at this juncture. Like, they are stacked. Like, and I know their FIBA World Rankings like a joke because they just got good last year, but like, I think they could be considered and probably should be considered the second best team in this tournament. Do you agree? Is that the perception in Canada? And what would it take for them not to kind of reach that goal? Because like, Nembhard obviously is new to the team, but it seems like they're just loaded.
Yeah, they are loaded. They are. There's no question. This is the golden age, all that type of stuff. This is what they've prepped for years and years. Like, that, the Canadian program has been marred in like bad moments and failures and not qualifying and having the talent but not getting to that point. And like, now they have it, right? Now they're at that stage. They're at the podium. Well, they're trying to get to the podium and get an Olympic medal. I think that's the goal. They've mentioned it 1,000,001 times. It's, hey, we are trying to get a medal, and not only just a medal, we're trying to win gold. And so they have ambitions of doing that. We'll see what happens in terms of getting there, because the U.S. seemed like they dealt with them pretty easily. We'll see how they look against France in a couple of days. I think Serbia is a really good team too. Continuity is one of those things that works really well in international programs. And so France, Spain, Australia, these teams have been together so often that they sort of know each other. I think there's a little bit of a learning process with this Canadian team because it is incorporating those new guys, right? Because you're incorporating Drew, because you're incorporating Trey Lyles, Jamal Murray, which is a big part of this. And so figuring out how those guys kind of mesh together with the 2023 World Cup team will be the steps that they need to kind of pass or jump over that hurdle to be able to get to that point where they are, the favorite or the second favorite team to win it.
Yeah, France got second in the, I hate that I do this, air quotes, 2020 Olympics. And they beat USA early and then lost to them in the championship game. They have 6 NBA players this tournament. That's like, that sounds low. Like that, to be clear, that's a lot. But
Yeah.
and it's Batum, who's old, Koulibaly, who's young, Fournier, who's on his last NBA legs, Gobert, who's awesome, Ntilikina, who's barely in the NBA, and Wemby, who might be the best player in the whole tournament. Like Australia has 9. Because Jack McVay just got back in the NBA somehow. Germany has, I think, 6.
Yeah.
Maybe one fewer than that. Like, and those are good teams. And Canada has way more than that, including Shea, who also has an argument for potentially the best player.
Yeah.
In the tournament, right? Jokic is in this too, so it's hard to give anybody.
This is the most talented Olympic tournament ever, right? Like yes, Canada has gotten better and they've gotten to the point where they can compete for a medal and they're up there in these conversations with these teams, but like the rest of the world has gotten better too. And I think this is something the US is dealing with right now as well, where it's like, hey, we can put out the best of the best of the best and we might still win by 6 against Australia because they're just good. They're a good, solid team. And I think that's something that we kind of have to get used to. I don't think it's going to go back to what it was before where there's just one team that's dominating everybody else. I think it's going to be a lot of close competition. And as you look at the group of death that Canada is in,
we will get there.
I mean, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Like point differential is a huge thing in the Olympics.
Yep.
And I think that'll probably determine who ends up being, either first or second in the knockout stages or 3rd to 6th, and that might shake out whether Canada has a lucky draw or an easy draw in the knockout stages or a very, very tough one against a team like France or Serbia or the US.
Yeah, USA's routinely had best player and best team. They're probably the 4th team in terms of best player, right? Shea, Giannis, and Jokic in the tournament makes that tricky. No Luka to the smile of many a program out there, but they have like the best 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you go down the line kind of guy. So that's why they're the favorite every year. But like the talent is catching up to them. Like I said this when I did the USA show, like every Olympics from now until I die probably will be the most talented men's basketball field we've ever seen because this is going to keep happening. It's becoming a more international game. Like even South Sudan has like four NBA players. It's remarkable how this is all coming together. And that's why I think this is a big thing for Nembhard. Like, obviously, he just made the conference finals. His NBA experience isn't a joke, but this is a crazy good field of competition. And FIBA play is just different. Like, it teaches you different skills. It requires more of you. Haliburton went from, this guy's like the worst all-star in the league. And this is not the only reason this happened, but he plays for the World Cup team. And it's like, he's one of the best 10 players in the NBA. Like, if Nembhard can take a similar step, that'd be huge. And the quality of competition is a big part of that.
Yeah. There's also this juice that comes with playing for your team. Now, I don't know what it is. There's like an aura, people talk about aura a lot on Twitter, but there is a little bit of an aura to be like, where did that come from?
Where did that trend come from?
I have no idea, but there's like this vibe, I guess. I don't know, some kind of residue that rubs off on you when you play internationally that leads into the next part. And I think Canadians feel the same way about like RJ Barrett, who had a really good year last year coming off of a World Cup campaign. I think there's a reason Dylan Brooks got off to a really good start in Houston post World Cup campaign. SGA obviously went into an MVP type of season. I think there's something to be said about like being in rhythm when it comes to the year. And hopefully that happens with Drew too. I mean, he had a great postseason run. I asked him about this. I'm like, look, like you had a great playoff run. Now you're going into the Olympics. And, what do you think that does for your next year? And he's like, man, I'm just trying to explore what else I can do because I know what I'm good at in terms of defending, passing, being able to score a little bit here and there, but what else can I provide on the floor? I think that's when he brought up the free throw stuff and the rebounding, which we'll see if he can show it off in the Olympics.
Your reaction, ex-Raptor Gary Trent headed to the Bucks. We just found out.
Oh, is that official? There you go. Wow. There you go. You're getting official breaking news. I mean, I like it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Is it for the vet men? I assume it would have to be.
You know this. For those who don't know, if Woj tweets the number of years on a contract, but not the dollars, it's a minimum. It's a minimum.
Man, I love it for Milwaukee. I think
Yeah.
he is a really, really good shooter. And that is a very big bonus playing next to Giannis and Dame. And Dame and GTJ back together, and in the bubble, they were those two guys that kind of helped the Blazers get to that playoff spot. I think it's good. I think it's a good spot. I think it's a nice bet from Gary to get to where he wants
Rehab
to.
the value.
Yeah, recoup his value. I said, with the money not being there and not being available, one of the best things for Gary to do would be to go to a potential playoff team where he'll be on nationally televised games, where he'll be an important part of the core, yada, yada, yada. And that way he can, get some easy shots playing next to Giannis and Dame, make his numbers look better, and then have that, kind of bump up year next season with the free agency happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, Dalen Wright, Brandon Prince, Gary Trent, the Pacers' first-round opponent, division rival, and NBA Cup group participant, Milwaukee Bucks.
Nice.
The Raptors are in that group too. So
we are. Yeah.
Back to Canada. I love when news breaks right when I'm actually doing something.
So
if you had to rank the top, pick a number, 6, 7 teams in this tournament, 4 of them are in Group A.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's why I'm really looking forward to Canada plays France Friday and Puerto Rico, I believe, right? Sunday. They should beat Puerto Rico, but how they look against France will be telling, because I want to know. I think they're the second best team. If they can beat France, I would likely prove it. I think France is probably the third best team, but how Canada looks in that game will be revealing, because that group, you could tell me any order of finish. Maybe Canada last. I would be like, and I'd be like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's crazy how good it is. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing again how they look against France in France. So maybe I shouldn't put too much stock in that, because Australia's very good. USA sucked in the fourth quarter, but they just pushed USA. Greece has Giannis. Like, he's going to give every team issues. Spain is old.
They just beat Serbia too, apparently. Australia just beat Serbia too.
In Serbia, right?
Yeah.
And Spain is old and creaky, but has my favorite form of a jump shooter player on the planet, and Alex Abrinas. I wish he was still in the NBA. So, it's a crazy tough group. I still, again, assume Canada will get out, but point differential is going to matter. Like, you got to play really well against, even in games you're losing by 20, you got to keep fighting and playing.
Yeah, you got to just run the numbers up. Look, I think the reason I picked Canada to be, if not the best or the second best team in that group, like to win it or be second in it, is because not only do they have the star talent to compete with those groups with SGA and Jamal, but they also have the depth, right? Like, I think Australia, you could say, yes, they have a deep team, but they don't necessarily have that star. Shout out to Patty Mills, who turns into a star during FIBA competition. But against SGA and Jamal Murray, he's kind of outmatched, right? Spain doesn't have that star anymore. They just have that depth and cohesiveness. Greece obviously has Giannis, but they don't have the depth to surround him with any sort of talent. So I think in both categories, Canada should be the overwhelming favorite to win this. It just depends on execution. And also, I don't think I would put as much on their exhibition games as you're saying, just because from what Jordi Fernandez said, they are taking this very, very slow approach, because they realized last year that they sort of ran their guys into the ground. And they got tired in the knockout stages, and SGA was gassed, and, guys just weren't getting any lift on their shots. So they are meticulous. I think the starters only played 20 minutes in that USA game. I imagine it'll be about the same.
Yeah, they had the scrub bros in with 8 minutes left or whatever. Yeah, that does make sense. It'll be a quality check for me, but not the whole game, not the result, I guess I should say, to be more important. Yeah, Spain is like, maybe they just won Euros in soccer, so I'm Spain pilled, I guess. But they always do well in these tournaments. But their NBA players are like Santi Aldama and the Hernan Gomez brothers. Like, these are good players.
Former Blazers legend Rudy Fernandez,
Right. This should be the worst team in the group to me. Sergio Llull should come to the NBA at some point. Yeah. But he never will. They're good. They should be the worst team in the group, but that is where Canada's tournament will be fascinating, because if they can win that group, then their first knockout game's a lot easier. Then you're playing for a medal already. They haven't medaled since 1938?
Yeah, it's been 80 years.
I just was looking this up for whatever reason. That's crazy. Is that an Olympic year? 36, 30? Why would 38 be an Olympic year?
I don't know exactly what, but it's been like 80 years.
A long time.
Yeah.
I put that number in my head and I said it. I'm like, wait, that's not a multiple four. That is not an Olympic year. Well, I'm looking forward to this and Drew's spot on this team, how he plays. I hope we get another Nembhard Haliburton game for my own off-season content purposes. And
Yeah.
say Tominaga's there, a Pacers Exhibit 10 agreement guy for Japan. I'm not going to do a full show on the Japanese team. But you will be covering Canada's entire run. I'll be talking about their games as they come from now on. Again, the next one's on Friday. This was great. Thank you very much. We talked about a little bit. Very cool to find you, your work covering Canada, maybe more commentary on Andrew Nembhard and more headed into the Olympics, which starts in when this comes out 8 days. We're almost there.
Yeah. At Just Us Baraheni, you can follow me on Twitter. I'll post all of my work on there, write for Forbes, do some content for Bleacher Report and Raptors Republic. But yeah, that's it. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you having me on.
A rare guest who has a better video and mic than me. It's my job to go to both of those things. That's how you know S is killing it in the video space. Tomorrow, talking more Summer League, depending on who's still playing for the Pacers Summer League team at that point. Maybe not a full show, and then we'll mix in some of the rest of the news from Vegas into that. I still have my Summer League swag on because can't get enough. Had a great time in Vegas. S, thank you for the time, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you very soon.